everyone, welcome to week number 7. This week what we are going to focus on is going to be chapter 6, and chapter 6 is really dealing with chemistry testing. Now when we talk about chemistry testing, it's important to know that what we're doing is we're actually testing for a chemical analyte found in various forms of liquid within your body. When I say various liquids, it could be things like urine, whole blood, it could be synovial fluid, pericardial fluid, serum or plasma, it could be peritoneal fluids, it could be pleural fluids, it could be cerebrospinal fluid, it could be any of those that we test. But more frequently in a physician's office, what you're going to more test is going to be the urine or the blood, okay? So those are the two that I'm going to focus on. I'm really going to focus more on the whole blood sample within my lecture, okay? So when we talk about doing a whole blood sample, what the doctor's really looking for is the plasma to be tested, which is that liquid portion of your blood. And plasma is, by definition, it's kind of a yellow, pale yellow in color. It's got a very sweet smell. It's sticky. It's just the liquid portion of blood. And when we start spinning things down, you'll be able to see that kind of separation. It's very interesting to see it kind of separate and what it all looks like. But the important piece for you to know is that plasma makes up about 50% of your total volume of blood, which is a large portion. But plasma itself is 90% water. The other 10% is made up of different substances. And those substances could be things like salts or nutrients. It could be waste products, hormones, enzymes. It could be albumins or globulins. It could be fibrogen or prothrombins. It's just made up of a different collection of substances. But the important piece to know is that 90% of plasma is water, okay? And it's important for you and your provider, he's going to use these, he or she, I guess I shouldn't assume you're going to work for men, he or she is going to use these to actually help diagnose or confirm a diagnosis for a patient. So it's very important that when you draw these up, you draw them correctly, okay? If you're working in a reference lab or a larger lab, you're going to be drawing a venipuncture. And you're going to use an SSP, or a serum separator tube, that has a clot activator. That's generally going to be a a gold top tube, okay? And gold top and green top can be drawn either one before the other or vice versa, okay? It doesn't matter if you go green and gold or gold and green. It does not matter in that respect, but that's where you would draw that in there, okay? And when you actually do draw using a gold top tube, you want to let the specimen sit for 30 minutes prior to being spun, because what has to happen is you have to have that clot formation start, and then you can actually spin the blood and separate it, okay? But because most of you are going to work in physicians' offices as opposed to larger laboratories or reference laboratories, it's important for you to know that you're going to be doing this on a capillary puncture. Like we will do in lab this week, you will do a second finger stick for this procedure. And when you do the finger stick, you're going to follow the same procedure you've always done. You know, you wipe the first drop of blood away, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go into detail because I say that to you guys every week when we are in lab and we do our blood glucose. But it's important to know that in the medical office, you're not only going to just draw a cholesterol via finger stick. Think back a few weeks. We've done things like hemoglobin A1Cs. We've done glucose testing. You can do an iStat, which deals with prothrombin. So you can do all different things by finger stick. We're just going to deal with the cholesterol this week, and we're going to use a machine called the Cholesterol LDX. It's actually the machine that sits right next to the urinalysis machine, so maybe if you've ever been sitting up there running a sample, you've looked at it, this week you get to play with it, okay? It's a very popular analyzer that we will use, and what it's going to do is it's going to test for total blood cholesterol along with different lipid profiles. Now, when I say lipid profiles, what I mean is it's really lipid metabolism, which is the ingestion of fats. That's where it all begins. That's where it all starts, is when you ingest fats. lipid metabolism is really important for several different functions in your body. Most important being it produces your steroidal hormones. So all those estrogen and testosterone that we have in our bodies, that's produced by our lipids. Okay. It transports our fat-soluble vitamins such as vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E. It is an insulation against extreme temperatures. So think about, if you're cold, your body tries to heat itself up. If you're hot, your body tries to cool itself off. That's your lipid panel coming into play there. It maintains a healthy skin. It produces vital organs. It protects vital organs and nerves. It's a source of energy when our glucose is not functioning properly or it's not available. Your lipids will kick in to help you give back the energy that you need. And it's used to satisfy our feeling of hunger. It's kind of interesting when you hear that because most people wouldn't think that way, but it really is used to help kind of tell our brains, hey, you're hungry, stop eating. Okay. When we talk about doing lipid profile testing, you're going to look at two different types of plasma lipid profiles. You're going to look at cholesterol, and cholesterol is essential for the production of cell membranes, for bile, myelin sheaths on your nerves, and steroid hormones. Cholesterol is also important for absorbing vitamin D. And cholesterol can be found in various places in your body. It can be found in your blood, your bile, your liver, your brain, your kidneys, and your adrenal gland. So when we talk about doing remember I said that you can draw this on any part of the body that has a fluid. We just touched on several pieces of body cavities that have fluid within them. So that's why we can draw cholesterol testing on them. Cholesterol also comes from what we eat. And what I mean is there are different types of fats that we eat as human beings that are good for us and that are bad for us. Foods that are high in cholesterol and can raise our blood pressure or cholesterol levels are things like saturated fats. And those come from meat, eggs, egg yolks, and milk. And we also have trans fats, which really come from our butters and margarines. But it can also come from oils that we cook with. So the deep frying oils that we cook with, okay? But then on the other hand, you have fats that are good for you that we eat. And those fats are things like monosaturated fats. For example, canola oil, olive oil, and fish oil are very good for you. They help lower your cholesterol levels. And then we have polyunsaturated fats. And those are things like soybeans, cottonseed oil, and corn is very good for us because it helps lower our cholesterol levels, okay? The second type of cholesterol testing that we can do is called triglycerides. And triglycerides are a direct result of diets rich in carbohydrates. So when we tell you that you need to lower your carbohydrate intake, it's because it deals with your triglycerides. Sorry, I cannot get that word out today. And triglycerides really are 95% of the fat stored in your adipose tissue. They make up about 95% of that. It's really important that we watch how many carbs that we take in. And when your triglycerides are elevated, they produce a milky white appearance in your plasma. So instead of being that pale yellow color, it becomes very milky and white, so it's not good. And that condition, when that happens, is called hyperlipidemia. So you've probably heard that before in other classes. Now you have an understanding of where it comes from. Okay? It comes from elevated triglycerides. There are some further categories in testing that we can look at when we talk about lipoproteins, and those are your HDL, your LDL, and your VLDL. Now, HDL is your good cholesterol. It's also called the high density or healthy density lipoproteins, okay? And they are used to help lower fat content, and it appears to actually help relieve your blood vessels of fatty tissue and fatty buildup, okay? LDL is actually called your bad or your lousy lipids, okay? you want to try to avoid things that are high and help lower your LDL, because when you have a high LDL, what happens is you get plaque that builds up in your arteries and in your blood vessels, causing you to have heart disease. Nobody wants that, so very important that when you have cholesterol testing, you make sure that you have a low LDL, okay? And VLDL is a very low density lipoproteins, okay? It's a direct link to the formation of plaque and the cause of atherosclerosis, which again is just plaque buildup in your arteries. And it's mostly made up of proteins that are linked to your triglycerides. So you can see how they kind of link back and forth together, okay? The last important factor that I want to talk to you guys about is how you know what a normal level is for all the HDL, LDL, total cholesterol, and your triglycerides. For your total cholesterol, you want to have any number that is less than 200 milligrams per deciliter. That's really desirable. As it goes up the scales, you become borderline if you go from 200 to 239, or above 240, you're at a high risk for a heart disease. Okay? LDL levels, you want to be less than 100. That's what's optimal. If you get anywhere from 100 to 129, that's optimal. Optimal near, it's near optimal. You're kind of there. You can do some, diet and exercise that can help that. But if you're over 130, you are really borderline. You're borderline high. 160 to 189 is considered high, and anything above that is extremely high, and you're at a huge risk for a heart attack and heart failure, okay? HDL, you want to be less than 40. So you'll notice that you want to have a lower HDL and a lower LDL, okay? The LDL has a higher number range, okay? 60 is really the desirable number to be at for an HDL. But anywhere less than 40, you're at a high risk for heart disease. 40 to 59, you're at a less of a high risk, but 60 and above is really a good place to be. That's very desirable. And the last one, triglycerides. So you want to be less than 150. That's the desirable number to be at. But if you're 150 to 199, you're borderline high. 200 to 499 is high, and anything above 500 is extremely high, and you're at a huge risk for a heart failure or heart attack. All right, guys. Hopefully I didn't overload you this week. Please read Chapter 6. We will be working with this in class. I want you to read because you never know when you might get another pop quiz. Just saying. So make sure that you're prepared for that this week or in subsequent weeks. Have a wonderful week. Please remember that just because there is a Dropbox for your diversity project this week, you do not have to do anything. It's just a reminder set in place to make sure that you are doing your revisions. I will see you guys on Thursday. Have a wonderful week. Goodbye, ladies.